It's such a beautiful day today. So clear. So warm. It feels like high 70s, mid to high 70s. Oh, look at that. This is a buckeye. I got a new camera, guys. Actually, I got a new iPhone, so the camera's better, and I'm able to film a little more wide angle. We are in Richmond Point in the Bay Area, California. It's a small little city, but there's some really nice homes here, nice gardens, really nice view. Look at that bridge. Look at the bay, looks great. It is really nice. You see this? This is a really common invasive plant called Casmanthe. Invasive, I don't know, aggressive. Everyone has different opinions of what invasive means. So the climate here is much more milder than inland, because the city is right by a large body of water, so never gets too cold, never gets too hot, and a lot of plants just thrive throughout the year, and that's why the gardens look so good, even in winter. Okay, so this is the entrance of the garden, and this garden is called Wave Garden. And I believe like a landscape designer or a landscape architect actually designed this, and he or she lives right next to this garden. But it has a bunch of Mediterranean climate plants, and I love that. This is a great place to get inspiration for a really unique looking garden using Mediterranean climate plants that are appropriate for California's climate. This isn't locked, right? It doesn't matter, we can go up that way.
Yeah, it's not blocked.
Okay, so right now aloes are in season, and they're blooming. This is so beautiful. I love this yellow color. Okay, you're gonna see a lot of weeds here because probably not too many people have been maintaining this garden. Wow, this is a really cool gate. That is so nice. Can you see the details? This is called the Wave Garden. It kind of has like a wave pathway and garden beds. Striking succulents, Mediterranean shrubs, perennials, and a lot of these plants are actually pretty common in the trade now, and you'll be able to find them at local retail nurseries or special order them through the nurseries. Check it out. Okay, so you've got a bunch of aeoniums. Aeoniums really prefer milder temperature and a little bit of shade, a little bit of water. But kind of in between these aeoniums, it looks like there are weeds. So this is a weed, and the seed head comes up and it just pops, right? That's how it spreads. This is another weed. It's part of the Euphorbia family. But this is not a weed. This is a geranium called Geranium Bill Wallace, and it's starting to grow right now. It actually does its thing usually in April, early May, but sometimes it blooms a little earlier. And these are the flowers. That purple blue color is so vibrant. I love it. It's a good tuck-in plant. It's good for containers. So they're kind of all throughout here because they do reseed easily. It's kind of a once and done bloomer. You could try to tease a few more blooms out of it by cutting it back down to about like 1 to 2 inches and then irrigating it. Wow, so many things just blooming right now. This is actually a eucalyptus, except it's being managed by coppicing it every single year, so it's more like a low-growing shrub. Excellent cut foliage for floral arrangements. But you guys know how I feel about Eucalyptus, right? Okay, I know the name of this, but I don't know. I forgot. These days, as I'm getting older, I'm just forgetting things. Let's check out this rail. It's custom too. There's a lot of grass-like plants. This is Limondra, kind of left to grow. It hasn't really been cut back year after year. So I guess you can say this is what it looks like in its natural state and habit. If you do have Limondra like this in your landscape, you can tidy it up by cutting it back every year or every other year. Depends on your climate, right? So over here, you could probably cut it back right now. But if you live more inland, I would wait until like maybe late February, mid-February to cut it back. And it'll just grow tidy and green again. I love when there are things just kind of popping through plants. So again, this looks like a weed, right? But this is actually a California poppy. You'll notice that when you're in like milder areas in California and you grow succulents, that they look so lush and healthy. Like if you go through the gardens in San Francisco and you see this aeonium, it's gonna look like this, right? But if you see an aeonium growing in San Jose, it usually doesn't look like this. It doesn't look as big or green or, yeah. There are so many plants to talk about. I can't get through all of them, but maybe we'll do a couple more visits in the future. Again, here's some more Limondra. Just above it, this shrub is a South African shrub, very common. It's called Leukodendron, and this variety is called Jester. So I see a lot of people getting this plant and putting it in their garden, whether it's a homeowner or whether it's a landscape designer, and they don't realize how big it gets. This is Jester, and I'm gonna go up here so that you guys can see. It's really big. But you know what's cool about leucodendrons? They take pruning so well. Interesting foliage, because there's some variegation going on. It does this thing usually in late winter, early spring. It has that really vibrant, glowing, kind of flower-like situation here. This is a good specimen plant. Just kind of brightens up the garden. Ooh, cool. You don't see this too often. It looks kind of like a pine, right? But it's not a pine. Again, my memory is going to crap as I'm getting older. I don't remember the variety, but this is a Banksia. Another Mediterranean climate plant. If a plant like this grows well in your garden, most likely this will grow well. Since they're Mediterranean climate plants, they prefer really well draining soil. They can tolerate full sun and tolerate a little bit of shade. But probably the most important thing is that they're adapted to their natural environment. Whatever the native soil is over there, it lacks phosphorus. If you bring this into your garden and you apply fertilizer that is heavy on the phosphorus, you can cause sudden death for these plants. So just be careful. That's Jaime, by the way. Jaime, hey, what's up? How cool is that? Man, there's so many cool plants here that are really accessible. So in front of us is another really cool grass-like plant. But you definitely do need a lot of space for this. It expands really, really fast. Could get really big. This is related to Leukodendron, but this is called Leucospermum. You gotta look up this plant. The flower is so pretty. It looks like a pincushion flower that's like this big. Usually yellow or orange in color. Super pretty if you can get it to establish. This is a little fussier than the Leukodendron. This is a cordyline. Fortunately, I do not know the variety. It could be renegade. It could be black adder. Not sure. But look at that. If you live in a milder climate, this would look great in your garden. So striking. This is not so good for inland, intense summer, full sun exposure gardens. It's definitely going to receive burn unless it's planted in light shade and it receives regular moisture. Let's check out the view real quick. I wouldn't mind living here. It seems so chill. Here's another Leukodendron. Don't know which variety. I love it. It kind of glows. In front of us is a Melanthus. I think I talked about this plant before. This is like a large scale tender shrub or perennial, large, very, very large perennial tender shrub. I don't know how to categorize it. It's tender, but it's evergreen here because, again, of the mild climate. This gets to be about 8 to 10 feet tall. Potentially, I've seen it that tall. Incredible looking flowers that are burgundy pink color that just kind of throw itself out in early March, usually. Foliage is striking. Oh, shoot. You gotta be careful here. You know, there are lots of steps, and if you're not looking, you can trip like I tripped just now. Foliage is so striking, right? But it's stinky, guys. It smells. I had this in my garden, but I had to take it out. I didn't like the smell. If you have a large space and you don't interact with it, then it's okay. The only thing is, if you live in a kind of like more intense climate, like a colder climate, this will die back. So you kind of want to wait until winter is over and it's like early spring, you know, sometime in March. Cut it back, I don't know, no more than 3 feet off the ground, and then let it resprout. Here's a Grevillea. It's small right now, it's gonna get huge. Okay, I like this. Just sit down here and chill. Does this swivel? Because I like swiveling patio chairs. Oh, it doesn't swivel. So it would be cooler if it swiveled. Right on this wall is Ceanothus. Looks like a ground cover type. I like that. Just kind of softens up the edge. Okay, what is this tree? What is this, guys? Anyone know? That's bugging me. What is it? Whoa. Look at this. Huge yucca. Over time, yucca gets like this. Yucca is pretty long-lived. It looks cool. It's pokey, but it looks cool. Go look at this. What is this? Does anyone know what this is? Oh, this is a smoke tree. I should have known that. Okay, I know it's like, well, how can you tell it's a smoke tree when it looks bare bones? From a distance, it was a little hard to tell, but now that I see it up close, it's pretty clear. One of the distinguishing characteristics about smoke tree is that it kind of has an ugly form if you let it grow naturally. So this obviously has been pruned and thinned out quite a bit, so it looks like, you know, a nice looking tree. When branches form, right, they actually form in whorls. So there are nodes everywhere. Node here, here, just kind of everywhere. And so they kind of like branch out 3-4 branches at once in the same spot. But some of them have been pruned, you know, so like over there is like 1, 2, and then that one has been pruned off. There's a little bit of foliage left, and it does look like that round foliage of Cotinus. So I just found a label. Let's check it out. Yep. I appreciate that there are plant labels here. Oh, so here's another smoke tree. It's younger. You see all the branches forming in whorls. And then just behind it is actually a California native poppy, the Rhamnia coulteri. How can you tell it's Rhamnia coulteri? It looks like this garden is not being irrigated, because if it were, this plant would still look evergreen. And you can tell that it's Rhamnia coulteri because it's a cane grower, or it's like a perennial, right? So there's some basal shoots coming at the bottom. And then it usually has blue-green stems and foliage, and the foliage is quite distinct. I don't know if you can see that. Can I zoom in somehow? I don't know if you can. Well, if you look it up, it's really distinct. And then the tips, let's try zooming in again. Those are seed pods right there. That's where the flowers appeared. And the seed pods usually look kind of like this copper, brown, golden color, and then they brown out. They pop, right? And so those seed pods end up looking like, let me see, those seed pods? You know, they kind of open up, it looks like a flower form. Oh, so here it looks like it's receiving more water, or if it's more sheltered. That's why the stems are more blue-green, and they probably cut down. I don't know who takes care of this garden, but they probably cut down the old stems. That's why it looks really clean. Rhamnia coulteri is sometimes hard to establish. It's a type of plant that likes to have a good spot. It doesn't like being transplanted or moved around. Once it gets established, it really takes off. It's actually quite an aggressive plant. So it's good for a situation like this where you have hillsides. It's a plant for erosion control, like mass erosion control. That's Rhamnia coulteri. That's also Rhamnia coulteri. Over here this is an Abelia. Abelia Grandiflora. It would be hard to tell if the foliage wasn't still on, but this is very clearly Abelia foliage. This is a deciduous large-scale shrub in Northern California. So it goes deciduous, but when it fleshes out, it's actually really pretty. It has a really graceful look. In Southern California, this is evergreen. In Southern California, it's really tough. It doesn't need too much water. This is one of those plants that are so underrated, particularly in Southern California. It's so malleable. You can turn it into a hedge. You could literally turn it into a box hedge if you wanted to. It's just a nice subtle color, really graceful looking. Cute little flowers. I like it because it's so tough. Honestly, I don't know any conifers, so don't ask me about those plants. I guess I only know about plants that I'm interested in. Couple more plants that are pretty common in front of us. This one is a Pellergonium, scented geranium. And then, oh, check out let's see if we can zoom in. Check out the hummingbird. Oh, the hummingbird's big. Man, birds work so hard. So it's feeding off of the Salvia leucantha. Salvia leucantha, so common, right? You've seen this in everyone's garden. It's so common because it does well. It's really tough. It is tender though. So if you live inland, you do need to make sure that you don't cut it back until it starts getting warmer. It does spread quite a bit, but it's not thuggish. Mandarin orange, cute. Okay, it must be getting irrigated. Never mind. I thought this garden wasn't, but if this mandarin orange is doing well, and it's a high high water plant, it's getting irrigated. Okay, and look, we're looking into someone's backyard. Agaves. So we've got an agave cluster here. That's common. It happens like this after a few years. And then the understory is this plant called Bulbini. It's a fleshy foliage plant, low water, and it's a ground cover. It spreads easily. You can propagate it easily, but it has really wispy, kind of either yellow or orange flowers that come up. Super pretty. The bees really like it. Good pollinator plant. Great understory plant for a Mediterranean climate garden. Check this out. Look at this colony of Mongavas. I don't know the variety. It's like Macho Choco or Choco Macho maybe. Now you don't see this too often in landscapes, but they are becoming more popular. Mongavas are cool. They're so pretty. They are very low water. There are some smaller ones. I have the lavender lady, planted like 3 years ago, and it's pretty compact. It's about like 2 feet wide. This one is larger. In the Bay Area, if you live inland, a lot of succulents cannot handle frost, but Mongavas are hardier than like agaves. And look at that. I love that splotching. Where can you get these? You could probably get this from Flora Grub. You could probably find a smaller one from Annie's. A lot of people hate this weed. Actually, I get really annoyed by this weed too, because my clients hate them and they always want me to manage it. It's oxalis, the yellow flower. I actually think it's quite pretty. But yeah, it could get on people's nerves if it just kind of pops up in a random location. This is like a weed that spreads easily when you try to dig it out, so be careful about digging. If you dig it out, you want to dig out everything because it has like little corms that kind of just lodge everywhere. Let me show you one of my most hated plants. I don't know, can you tell what this is? It's out of bloom right now, but blooms pretty much 10 months of the year. This is Lantana. It's really good for inland areas, very hot, sun-exposed areas. I hate this plant because like every year I have to cut this back at a couple of gardens and it just smells so bad. Whenever I work on this plant, I feel like vomiting. Let's look at this real quick. Just kind of here. This is a really good landscape plant too that isn't used enough. This is Tagetti's Limoni. It can get really large. It lives for quite a bit, like quite a number of years. It has a strong foliage scent. Some people don't like it. I don't mind. It's actually okay. What's really cool about this plant is that it blooms nearly all year long, including right now, January. So if you want constant color, you can have this plant in full sun. It can take pruning really well. You can just cut it down like a couple inches off the ground in early spring and let it resprout if you wanted to. It grows to be about 6 feet tall, potentially. It's a good plant, underutilized. You see what I'm talking about? This grows big, and you see it's getting into the pathway. So be careful about planting this. What is this? This is Chondropetalum. I think this is Tictorum. Tictorum is the smaller one. Elephantinum is the really big one. But this gets big, so you want to give it a lot of space. Otherwise, you have to cut it back and it starts looking weird, or you have to dig it out, which is kind of hard to do. This ground cover is cute. Persicaria. Kind of aggressive, so I don't plant this in my garden. I would put it in a container planting, but not on the ground. This is a cool plant. Actually got this today to trial in my own garden. You can see this being used in a lot of gardens that are more modern and contemporary. You can also see this at Gamble Garden. I know I always bring up Gamble Garden, but it's such a wonderful free resource. You can get a lot of ideas from there. Their new watershed garden has a lot of cool plantings, really foliage forward garden, very naturalistic looking. And they do have some plantings of this, which is called, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this incorrectly, Biscornaria or Bestornaria Flamingo Glow. So at Gamble, in the watershed garden, you're going to see an example of plantings with this and an example of plantings with Yucca Bright Star. You can kind of compare it. When you first get the plants from the nursery, they look sort of similar because they're similar sizes and they have some variegation going on, right? They're kind of stripy, but clearly the form is different and the size is different. The flowers are really different. And this is not as pokey as yucca. There are so many cool plants. This is so cool. So down below, this is a ground cover, large scale ground cover, or medium scale ground cover. Again, it's underutilized because it looks really nondescript. This is, what is it called? It's like woolly jug flower, what is it called? This is Adenanthus. Crenatus, something like that. The one that is popular is Adenanthus juglans, I think. And that is, no, not juglans, sorry, Adenanthus sericius. And that's like a really large scale shrub. And this is kind of like similar to leucodendrons, so they behave similarly. When you prune them, they're gonna sprout out everywhere. They take pruning well. They're very low water, they need good drainage, they prefer full sun, but can tolerate some light shade. They do not like phosphorus, so if you like this plant, you like leucodendrons, you like leucospermums, just make sure that you don't have a lot of phosphorus in your soil. Why do I like this when it looks so muddy colored? Because it's not in your face, and then also you can see like when it catches light, it's really beautiful. Look at that. And it kind of has like a sheen, a pearly sheen to it on the foliage. I don't know if you can tell. Can you tell this like pearly sheen? I think this is so pretty, like the new foliage color. From what I know, Adenanthus is a pretty long-lived plant. My neighbor has the sericius, and it is huge, and it's been pruned like a tree. So I imagine this would be long-lived too, as long as it doesn't get too much phosphorus. Let me show you guys one more thing. This incredible leucodendron, guys. I'm gonna go over there. Jaime, what do you think of this garden?
Very, very cool work. All these iron.
I know, right? So cool.
Seems it would take a lot to make this thing.
Right? Okay, guys. So one last thing. This is a leucodendron, guys. This is Leukodendron Argentius or Argentium. Something like that. Any plant that usually has a name called Argent something means that most likely the foliage is silvery. So this is a silver bush tree, silver leucodendron, and it is huge. It's literally silver. All right, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this garden tour. Let me know what you guys think. Which plant did you like the most here? There's so many cool plants. I think I like the Banksia the most. Look at that view. How cool does that tree look? that bridge. I love bridges. Bridges are cool. Man, I want a house here.